Navigating the Four podcast, where we discuss all things faith, healing, leadership, and communication. Exploring the topic of communication, I'm Matt Barker, and I'm joined by the other hosts of the podcast, tackling the topic of faith. We have Freed Hardeman Professor of Bible, Matt Cook.
Hello.
Exploring the perspective of leadership, we have Assistant Dean of Emerging and Innovative Programs at Freed Hardeman, Mr. Jared Gott.
Hello.
Nathan's playing with sound effects. And giving us a perspective of all things mental health, we have Director of the University Counseling Center at Freed Hardeman, Mr. Nathan Judd.
That's me.
Okay, so we already had the sound effects going here. The guys are in full force here on a...
You should not have shown us those before this started.
We got the preset buttons loaded and ready to go, and the guys are also ready to go. So welcome to Season 2, Episode 5, where we'll dive into the topic of culture and conversation.
No, how do you stop it?
Okay, that's what the editing's for.
No, that stays in.
You gotta
okay.
leave that.
All right, welcome to Season 2, Episode 5, which will dive into the topic of culture and conversation, navigating cross-cultural communication. This is one that I'd come up with. I think we have a lot of the different areas that we cover in this podcast. I thought it'd be good to cover a topic on culture because really culture and background, I guess, we could think about it a couple different ways there. And I wanted to start out, and you've already heard the correct answer and incorrect answers. Yes. And then incorrect answer. We're going to have a little game for the hosts, not me, of course, because I know the answers. So Jared Gott, Matt Cook, and Nathan Judd will be participating in a little game where we go through some idioms across the world. Idioms meaning phrases and different things that are maybe unique to certain cultures. We're going to see, I have them writing these answers down so nobody can steal each other's answers. Also need to note, no looking up, which they don't have computers in front of them, so I don't think. Matt has a phone out, but no looking these up on ChatGPT or anything, right? So we need to, keep the integrity here. And so I have 10 different ones, and we're going to see how many of them you all can get right. We're going to start out with an easy one, okay? This is one that probably all of you have heard before. All right, the first one is not my circus, not my monkeys. Jared, what is your answer on that one? These have already been wrote down, so.
That's not my problem.
That's right, Matt.
Not my problem.
All right.
That's what I meant. I put mind my own business.
Questionable.
I did
it myself.
So Jared and Matt both get a point on that one.
While we're scoring this,
yeah,
I really would have given it more thought.
Well, you need to give it more thought anyway, Nathan, because you need to take this seriously. All right. So the second one.
Yeah, that's me.
All right. This one is a little different. This one might not be as one that you've heard of. To ride the goat. This is a French idiom. To ride the goat. Everybody's answer is locked in.
Got it.
Jared Gott, what say you?
I actually don't know this one, so I wrote down tackle a problem head on.
To eat a goat.
To talk smack about LeBron. Oh,
Okay.
man, I thought for sure.
So as I mentioned, this is a French one. To ride the goat means to sulk or pout. So if you're saying you're just riding the goat, you're pouting or you're upset about something.
Oh,
Okay.
writing. I thought we were writing, like WR. I would have
I'm
gotten
sure
it.
anybody.
I misheard you.
So
I misheard
when we were
you.
in Peru, obviously learning a new language has a lot to do with this whole cross-cultural communication. Learning past tenses is challenging in Spanish, and it was early on. And one of us came in to our Spanish class that morning, and our teacher said, "Tell me how you got here," in past tense. And it was not me. One of my teammates said, "Yo monté un taxista," which
Taxi?
he said, I mounted a taxi driver.
Oh no.
Yes. It was
not
so
good.
your example here of riding a goat made me think of that.
There
He was
you
trying
go.
to say I got into a taxi and messed that one up.
So we're going into our third question here, Jared
You're
and
gonna have
Matt.
to edit that out, maybe.
No, I think it's funny. I mean, there's always these confusion on things. So yeah. So Jared and Matt both have one. Nathan still with 0. We're going into question 3 here. To have a wide face. To have a wide face. This is a Lithuanian idiom. Wide, W-I-D. To have a wide face.
Okay, so it's not like wide, like the question why.
No.
Oh, okay,
Wide,
okay.
W-I-D-E.
Man.
I feel like this is a hearing test for Nathan.
Yeah,
because he's
Nathan-
already failed twice, 3 times now.
Whoa.
Wait, you say why or wide? It's like talking about
right
grandpa
or
here.
right?
A hearing test for Nathan, like going to court?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Okay. Answers locked in? All right, Jared, what say you?
Be cheerful, be happy.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Okay.
To be generous. That would seem too obvious.
Man, I was
gonna say
wrong. I was
happy.
along the right track. I put to feel serious. So, yeah, but I mean,
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The actual definition, or this one means being in a good mood.
Okay.
So happy, like wide face, I guess
I know.
sguess smiling. It
Yeah.
kind of makes
That
your.
seems-
Yeah,
too
I guess
obvious.
that's more than serious. I was thinking like flat, like
Flat wide.
yeah.
All right. Number 4, the tomato flew over there. It's a Spanish idiom. The tomato flew over there. Answer's locked in. All right, Jared, what you got?
I put to not be worried.
Okay.
It's a very common sound effect.
To
in this
go,
episode.
I put to go crazy.
To make a mockery.
All right. The tomato flew over there means you're off topic or that has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
What-
Exactly. Make a mockery.
One that Lauren says to our son Riley a lot is if he starts going off and saying something, you're switching lanes without a blinker. Like you just totally switch topics and you never told us what you were talking about and we have no idea what you're talking about. It's kind of like the tomato flew over there. You just went off topic and you didn't tell anybody what you were doing. So kind of the same as switch lanes without a blinker. All right. Number 5, to have a green onion in your nose. This is a Korean idiom, to have a green onion in your nose. All right, Jared,
I put like to be in a bad mood or bothered.
I'll hold off on yes or no. We'll see what the other ones say.
Okay.
Matt?
Well, I mean, if I take it literally, it sounds like someone has a booger, but that's probably not the case. To smell something bad.
I do know that one's wrong.
I put to feel sour.
The answer is
similar to
means
Jared's.
someone is being childish.
Ooh.
So probably
I don't think either of us.
I don't
know.
think anybody got that one either. All right. All around just wrong. It's okay. All right, number 6. Stop ironing my head. Ironing as like you iron a shirt. Stop ironing my head. All right, number 6. Stop ironing my head. Jared, what you got?
I mean, I just wrote get off my case.
Yeah, I'd say that's right.
Okay.
Stop making me mad.
Yep.
Really? I wrote give me a break. That's a yes. That's a yes.
Sure. Nathan needs a win. It basically means stop annoying me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we'll give everybody a point on that. Jared has 2, Matt has 2, Nathan has 1. Number 7, to give someone pumpkin. To give someone pumpkin. This is used in Spain, an idiom used in Spain. To give someone pumpkin. This is one of the ones that I was like, I'm not sure how that means that, but this is kind of one of the weird ones here. Jared, what's your answer?
I wrote to celebrate.
Matt?
To show affection.
On the right track, but
Then I'm probably wrong. I put to scare someone.
okay, so the meaning of to give someone pumpkin means to reject someone romantically. So kind of the opposite. You were talking about, you had the romantic part, but if you're rejecting them, I don't know exactly why that works. But anyway, all right, the number 8, when the elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. African proverb. When the elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers.
I feel like I can figure
You
this
can
one
kind
out.
of like,
Yeah.
there'll be some interpretation here on like, depending on how you say it, there might be a few right ways to say it here. All right, answers locked in. Jared got what you got.
I'm trying to think the best way to word this. I'm going to say like conflict affects or trickles down to the innocent or those standing by.
Yep.
Conflict impacts others.
Yeah, your actions hurt others unintentionally.
Yeah, it actually means, I guess, elephants being kind of this powerful figure refers to ordinary people suffering when powerful groups clash. So kind of filtering down to the smaller groups that suffer as a result of conflict or whatever it is. So everybody got that one right. Number 9, like water into a basket. This is an Italian idiom, like water into a basket. Jared seems confident in this one, had his answer locked in pretty early. Matt's good. Nathan, got
Good.
it?
Yep.
All right, Jared.
Somebody who's forgetful.
That doesn't work.
I'd say yes.
Oh, I put it's a waste of time.
I'd say so. Yeah. So means useless effort, like pouring water into something that can't hold it. So I would say Matt and Nathan were,
Screen door on a submarine.
yeah, there you go. So now we have Jared and Matt tied at 4. Nathan, you're at 3. So
I need you guys to miss this, and then I need
This is the last one.
clutch.
This is the Brazilian idiom or Portuguese idiom, to peel the pineapple. To peel the pineapple. It all comes down to this.
Like a medicine that you swallow? That seems impossible.
P-E-E-L.
Oh, okay.
Peel. All right. Answers locked in.
Locked in.
Jared got.
To do the painful or hard part to get to the reward.
I would say close enough.
It's pretty close to what I have.
To hang out and chill. Nope.
I put do the difficult prep. Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is means to deal with a complicated problem. So you kind of do it in, little bits instead of kind of dealing with something that's.
Hey, I got one for you guys.
Nice.
Anybody know what liming is? To lime?
Can you spell it?
Lime, like the fruit
Like the fruit lime?
Liming.
as a verb.
Limey.
Is it something to
Caribbean.
do with like,
To add zest to something?
No, it is used all the time to hang out, just to chill. And apparently it comes. They actually don't know where it came from. They think it came from like just sitting out under the under a lime tree. A guy from the Caribbean used that with me. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Americans don't know how to do it. You are incapable of your schedules prevent you from just saying, 'Hey, Saturday we're just liming.'"
Love it.
And he's right.
Awesome.
It's such a cool one. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one.
Let's start making that a normal phrase here.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
liming.
Liming Podcast.
Yeah. So let's get into some conversation. This was just kind of a little exercise to kind of show you that there's a lot of things when you talk with people, maybe from a different culture, different background, phrases that they use, a lot of different things that the way that they live their life that's different. And not even just someone from another country. We talked about a lot of idioms from different countries, but even just here in the United States, whether you live in the South, the North, there's just different ways that people do things, different ways that they talk. And so I wanted to have a little bit of conversation, I guess, about cultural communication, how we can better communicate with each other despite maybe some of the differences with our culture. To start out here, we'll start with Jared. Why is understanding a person's culture or background such a critical issue, maybe even more so today than in the past?
Yeah, so I'm trying to address this from a leadership standpoint, right? And so thinking of being in a leadership role and having those not underneath you, but certainly those that you're leading, without having that kind of understanding of cultural expectations, I mean, ways that they've grown up. The liming thing is a perfect example, right? Like if you have somebody who is familiar with that phrase and really that culture where it's just, hey, we're taking time out to just develop relationships and just relax and spend time together. But you're the type of leader who's like, go, deadline. There's going to be conflict, right? There's going to be some type of instability there and ineffectiveness in relating to and leading that person. So understanding backgrounds really just helps a leader be more effective.
Yeah. Matt, what about from a faith perspective in our churches? Some things we need to keep in mind with culture.
Yeah, I mean, as to why it's important, I mean, I hate to throw a real trump card out there, but I'll just read Paul's words from 1 Corinthians 9. I know. He said, "I've become all things to all people, that by all means I might win, save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel." We will not reach people from other cultures or other generations or other own parts of our own country if we don't understand their culture. So I'd say for the sake of the gospel, we got to take this seriously.
Mental health.
Yeah.
Nathan, what do you think?
When I'm hearing this, yes, I'm thinking cultures, but I'm thinking about different populations or people who come from different backgrounds. They've got their own stories, and I've seen where maybe somebody goes on a tangent talking about something, and you just never know what someone next to you is struggling with. And so that's kind of what's coming up for me, is making sure that we aren't some judgmental people that creates an unsafe space for people to open up.
Yeah. From a communication standpoint, one of the things that we talk a lot about with how to effectively communicate with others is you have to show respect for other people. And part of that is understanding not only their culture, their background. We never want to offend anybody. In order to do that, we have to try our best to be respectful. And talks a little bit of what we've talked about in other episodes on conflict. It can really prevent conflict a lot of times if we try to respect others. It's just having that respect. We are more likely to have more beneficial conversations with them and interactions with them as a whole. So I think from a communications perspective, that's the big one, is trying our best to respect everybody's backgrounds and cultures as best that we can. What about some breakdowns that we've seen, with whatever it is, with different backgrounds, different cultures? What is maybe some of the biggest breakdowns when interacting with individuals that maybe have a different culture or background than our own? What are some kind of breakdowns we have in our communication or just in our specific areas?
I actually do have something that kind of ties to the mental health side that I'm interested in your thoughts on. So even in thinking about like courses that are offered, right, and academic planning and some of that, especially when we start thinking about like international opportunities that exist, like sometimes the thought is, okay, if we're going to offer like a course in a certain part of the world, right, like a psychology course that's available online, like how much demand do we think a course like that might have in like Eastern Asian countries, right, where it's a lot of, instead of like individual psychology, right, it's more of a group sort of dynamic. And so, I mean, I'm curious kind of your your thoughts on that. Like even from just we all work at a college, right? We all work at a university. Kind of how, and especially now that I'm working with recruiting international students, right? How to sort of on a mental health side help students acclimate into an environment when we're dealing with some of these cultural things.
Man, I don't know that I know a quick answer to your question, Jared. I mean, I get the asking the mental health guy, but I don't. That's a big
Yeah,
question.
I mean, so far, like I don't think there are any quick answers, right? There because it varies not only by country that individuals are from, but even then their experiences within that culture kind of a thing. So, yeah, I don't think there are quick answers.
I think education is the main thing I'm thinking. Is making sure people are educated about the cultures they're going to be interacting with. I did remember what I was going to say was when we assume that everyone thinks like we do. I've been guilty of putting my foot in my mouth, and I think just recognizing that not everyone thinks the same, and people maybe around you that have different opinions, and just being aware of that. It's okay to disagree, but yeah, sometimes we can word things in a way that foot and mouth syndrome.
I think one thing I thought of on a leadership standpoint, and it goes back to Nathan, what you were saying, there are no quick answers. Some of the research that I've been trying to do, like they give examples of students arriving on a campus and going to their first class, and going through the syllabus and the teacher saying, okay, here's how you can reach me, here are my office hours, et cetera. And then ending up doing poorly in the class. And when asked, like, why didn't you go and get help? Then it's those are that teacher's office hours. That's when they are to be left alone doing their office work, right? And so there's a different kind of approach that a leader has to take, even, a faculty member, in how do I communicate things in a way that everybody understands it clearly. It takes a lot more intentionality.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that could be said here. I think the simplest one is, the biggest breakdown is, as ethnocentric Americans, we don't care. And so we're just going to do it the way we do it, especially here in the South. This is the way we talk. This is our culture. If you don't know it or understand it, you're going to have to learn it. And so that's unfortunate from a faith perspective. I think what Jared was just mentioning about like group dynamics, we're very individualistic. And so here in the United States, when somebody makes a decision to follow Jesus, for example, we expect that to be their own personal individual decision. In many cultures, everybody's going to look to the leader of the family first to see if they're okay with this decision, and then they may all do it. I mean, and there's biblical examples of that where entire households come to faith, and that's so foreign to us. And then, so here's a simple one on connected to communication. Just the way that we teach and preach should look different in 2025 than it did in 1985. And maybe some people don't recognize what's going on, but I think about deductive learning versus inductive. So there was a time when a preacher would say, today, here is my point, and here are the 3 points that support my point. That's deductive. Now, that's not how people listen today. And so it's a little more natural to say, hey, let's explore this topic together, and let's go on this journey, and let me lead you inductively to this big idea at the end of my sermon. And then we apply it or whatever. But just something as simple as like teaching and preaching inductively and leading people on a journey in a message is thinking about how to communicate in culturally appropriate ways.
Yeah, and I think maybe people are a little more visual learners too. So like maybe showing them instead of just talking, maybe using some of those PowerPoint, resources and things like that. From a communication perspective about breakdowns, that kind of goes a little bit what we talked about few episodes ago about communication styles. We talked about the different colors that people can be as far as how they communicate. So understanding the different communication styles of those you're communicating with can be very helpful in not having as many of these communication breakdowns. But I think about a lot of times things that we say, and Matt mentioned this a little bit, Matt Cook, about how things that we say, maybe even just here in the South, we expect everybody to understand what that means. And a lot of times they just don't. They don't, whether they're from a different culture, a different part of the United States, what some people might view as just being honest, others might view as rude, right? I think about friends I've had from northern United States. They're just very blunt. They tell you how things are. And to other people, that might come across as very harsh and just very short and very rude. And that's just a different style of how they're used to communicating. So we have to kind of be able to understand where people are coming from a little bit, not being so quick to judge maybe just based on the words they're saying. We have to understand their background and where they're coming from when they say it. A funny example that comes to my mind, my wife is from Alabama, and the first time she met my mom, we're from Indiana, and she said, "Yes, ma'am." And my mom just doesn't, and my mom listens to our podcast, she'll think this is funny. She was not necessarily offended, but it was more like, you're making me sound old by calling me ma'am. And Indiana didn't grow up really saying that a whole lot. West Virginia, I'm not sure if they do either.
Not grow up saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
So, this new girl I'm dating coming home saying yes, ma'am, just kind of made my mom feel a little old and kind of was like, you don't have to call me ma'am kind of thing. But it was more like, that's what I've always taught, to be respectful to people. It's just maybe having that understanding. Again, what some view as just honest or just natural, others might view as rude or offensive or whatever. And we just kind of have to be consciously aware of that. And we all probably could think of examples where we've maybe put our foot in our mouth or whatever based on something we've said and we didn't realize how it came across to somebody else. This next one, maybe Matt will touch on a little bit since it's mentioning kind of some of the things with church, but in what ways has the church succeeded or struggled in communicating across cultural lines? Matt mentioned this a little bit in the previous question, but maybe what are some ways that we've maybe done well with this? Maybe some ways that we have struggled as a church in communicating across cultural lines?
I think our tendency to have traditions, nothing wrong with traditions, but then stick with those traditions as the culture around us changes is an example of where we failed with this. I think we understand that our cross-cultural missionaries have to do this. And so encouraging them to do this has been a win. Our use of technology over the past, 20 years, but especially since with COVID, most churches learned we've got to use technology in some way if we're going to make it through this as a church. But then I still think there's this tendency to think, okay, we did it. We fixed it in 2020. Now we're good to go. Thinking about adapting to culture and being relevant in culture is an ongoing process that churches have to continue to do. And you have to keep asking every year, how can we be a biblical church in 2025? Well, the problem with that question is it changes next year and the next year. Yeah. Any business, if we had somebody who represented a business in here, if a business just decided we're not going to change anymore, they would die. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't want to sound too churchy here. Like, the Church of Jesus will never die, but local congregations will if they don't take this seriously.
I was thinking about the way, different churches maybe do things, specifically with different cultural things going on. Maybe you're in another country, maybe you're here in the United States, and some churches, I'm trying to figure out how to word it, are maybe a little more expressive in how they view things. And to some people that are maybe more traditional, maybe makes them like, oh, like, what's going on? I'm not used to this kind of thing. Again, like Matt said, things need to be grounded in truth. We need to be, the Bible needs to be our basis for why we're doing things. But there's also different ways dealing with culture too that churches do things. I'm thinking about, we went camping down in Mississippi, and there's a church there, and it was an all-black congregation. And if you go to an all-black congregation, they're a little bit more, they voice, saying amen and different things, and I didn't mind it at all. But thinking about somebody that maybe grew up in like a traditional where there wasn't a lot of speaking going on while the sermon's going on, even the preacher that maybe isn't used to that coming into a church that does that, it can be a little bit like maybe throw you off a little bit because you're not used to hearing a lot of feedback while you're preaching. So maybe just being a little more understanding of the culture, the background, the way that different churches do things. Still nothing wrong biblically, just maybe having a little bit better appreciation for those type of things, I think is good to kind of see where they're coming from and to not necessarily view something as wrong or bad just because it's different than maybe what you're used to, as long as it's still grounded in the truth.
I think that over the last, I've been working as a youth minister for 15 years. And so in that time, I feel like I've seen an increase in the number of conversations, discussions, people preaching or talking about how does the church connect with individuals? How do we break out of comfort zones, or at least kind of what we typically do to engage people more racially, generationally, culturally, et cetera. So I feel like there are good conversations taking place, but I feel like it's trying to catch up on so many years of not having those conversations and not trying to engage with other groups that now everything kind of does feel lagging unless you try to do things too quickly to try to play catch up. And then that leads to a lot of confusion and different things. So I do feel like a lot of churches are working to better themselves in that way. But again, there's just a history of not having that engagement that's so hard to overcome.
The one thing that's popped into my mind as you were talking a minute ago, Matt, is just tone of voice. Like that has changed. There was a time when, I kind of make fun of like a preacher voice, right? Where a guy would get up on the stage to preach, for example, and his voice changed and it turned into this, and we expected that. It was normal when we listened to that. You do that now, like that turns people off in a hurry. We want conversational.
Conversational, yeah.
And so that difference between like speaker voice versus conversational, that's changed in our culture. And so, I don't know, that's just an example of how we
if you
gotta
listen to
change a little
recordings
bit.
from preachers back in, many years ago, it does have that same kind of old Southern kind of sound and things like that. So it's definitely changed.
Oh man, that reminds me. But Rob Case, you remember Rob Case back in the day?
I do.
Man, he would do impressions, but I'm not going to say who he did the impression of. But there was a speaker, and he got this guy spot on. But he got up, he said, "Brethren, I am so happy."
Yeah.
And the deep breaths and everything. It was like, man, you don't seem happy to me.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up here, I thought it kind of combining these last 2 points here, I think would be good, because I want to think about some common mistakes that people make when maybe communicating with people across cultures, but then kind of as we talk about that, maybe what are some practical ways that we can maybe improve on some of those things that are challenging to us when we're communicating with people from other cultures. I'll start us off just to kind of get it going here. Thinking about some common mistakes that people make when communicating across cultures. I think, like Matt said, some nonverbals are definitely important to think about. Your tone of voice, the way that you look when you're talking to someone, the facial expressions you're making can say a lot of times without even having to say anything verbal to them. So I think nonverbals, we have to be aware of that. That's a big common mistake that we probably make, is not being aware of some of those ways that we're coming across. We tend to stereotype sometimes if we're not careful. We tend to think everybody is either the same as us or not like us at all. And in a way, when we do that, we're communicating with them differently because we're assuming things that may or may not be correct. So I think in order to maybe improve that, or maybe some practical strategies maybe that we can use to improve that, just always check for understanding, not assuming that we know something, asking somebody. I've never really came across anybody from a different culture that was offended because you asked them, how is this where you're from? Most of them are happy to explain it, but assuming we know something and not knowing it, then we're more likely to communicate in a way that is offensive. If anything, they're not understanding what we're saying. So asking for understanding is never a bad thing to do. And I would say that's probably the big practical strategy I would give, is not be afraid to ask somebody for understanding on who it is that they are, why they do the things they do, because usually they're more than happy to share that with you. And then just reframing your way of thinking and taking into account other cultures. If we only look at how we do things in our culture, then we're going to be leaving out a lot of other people that we're interacting with. So kind of reframing our mind to be aware of what other people are doing, how their cultures impact the way they do things, it helps us to communicate with them better. Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that leadership in general requires an element of humility. And so that has to be expressed when you're leading or in a leadership role that impacts people from other cultures and backgrounds, is having the humility to know that you don't know everything and that your way isn't necessarily always the best. And so a lot of educating yourself, a lot of taking the time before decisions get made, when you have that time to take, to really think through what are the impacts of a decision, what are the effects that others may feel when you pick a pathway to go down or a strategy to implement. Just really sort of trying to learn more about the people that you're leading before just making a decision and saying, everyone get on board, whether or not that has any effect on you. I think that's maybe the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, everything you guys have just said could fit into the context of faith. So I would just add to that, maybe a common mistake is fear. We fear communication with people from other cultures. One of the most heartbreaking things I heard in my dissertation research on the experience of immigrants, Asian American immigrants in Tennessee, is one lady whose English is proficient but not great. So she struggles a little bit. She said she feels like when people see her coming at church, they run the other direction because they don't want to deal with the challenge of communicating with her. Yeah. And so I think the simple response to that is don't be afraid. if you're a little bit nervous about communicating with someone from a different culture, it's likely that other people do as well. And maybe this person feels lonely and feels as if nobody really wants to talk to them because they are from a different culture. So don't be afraid and approach people who are from a different culture.
Nathan, what about mental health?
Yeah, Jared, I liked what you said about the word humility. And Matt Cook, you referenced just being Americans, and it's like we don't really care. That's what's coming up for me with this last question is just having the humility to say, I need to be understanding and adaptable and not think that the way I'm doing everything is the right way, and just meet people where they are.
Yeah, so as we wrap up, I found a quote that I thought would wrap up this episode pretty well. It says, cross-cultural communication is less about saying the right words and more about creating the right understanding. Always taking into account other people's backgrounds when we're communicating with them is always a good rule of thumb for that. So thanks for joining us for today on Navigating the Four. We hope that today's conversation sparks something real in your faith, your healing, your leadership, or your communication. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep navigating the four. We'll see you next time on Navigating the Four podcast. Y'all with these buttons.